My name is Jenna Baird, and we are at the Baird Farm in Chittenden, Vermont. It's my family's farm that's been in the family for over 100 years, and we make and sell maple syrup.
I am Jacob Pausner. I am Jenna's other half. I'm not a Baird. They mostly just tolerate me here. And Jenna and I returned to this farm about 10 years ago. And I think this year will be our 10th season making syrup on the farm.
I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain, and I take you behind the scenes to learn how farmers are building their business in sustainable agriculture. These farmer-to-farmer interviews cover a wide range of topics from cropping systems, marketing channels, lifestyle decisions, and lessons learned along the way. This podcast is supported by the University of Vermont Extension and the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association. It has funding from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets as part of a specialty crop block grant. Unfortunately, the end of that grant funding is coming to a close soon. So if you enjoy the show and would like to help keep more episodes coming, please consider making a donation. Any amount is greatly appreciated and can be made on our website, thefarmershare.com/support. Thank you. Today's episode comes to you from Chittenden, Vermont, where we visit with Baird Farm. If you've heard of them, you may recognize that they are not a diversified vegetable farm. They are a medium-scale maple producer with about 15,000 taps. Vermont is known for its maple, but what makes them unique is that 90% of their volume is sold directly to the consumer. They lean heavily on online sales and agritourism for the retail business. Like most of my episodes, the first hour features a walking tour where Jacob and Jenna provide an overview of maple production and what it looks like on their farm. We walk to the woods, see some trees and sap lines, pop our heads into a pump house, then tour the sugar house, which includes a bottling room and retail area, in addition to the evaporator and sap tanks. Once we've gotten a lay of the land, we then pull up a stool in the farm stand. Jenna's dad, Bob, also known as the Syrup Daddy, joins us for the conversation to share some insights to the history of Vermont agriculture and how it's transitioned over the years into the business that it is today. For reference, this visit happened January 29th, 2026. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the show.
There's the sun.
Yeah, hello, sun.
Yeah.
It's that last half hour of the day, sun.
Yeah, it was gorgeous this morning.
It was a gorgeous day.
Especially with a little bit of dusting on the ground last night.
It was like just glittering this morning as I
Yeah.
drank my coffee. The birds were on the feeder. It was nice.
Do you put anything in your coffee to make it glitter, like amber rich maple syrup?
Not usually. I just
Run amok,
straight black.
sparkle.
Black. So we can just start talking if you want. And
Yeah.
Tell you a little bit about. So what did we say, Jenna? We just met Bob, Jenna's,
Dad.
and he's been living here his entire life.
Yep. Yeah, he always says he started making maple syrup when he was 2, and then the next person he tells it to, he was 1.
Yeah.
And like pretty soon it's like when I was in the womb.
Yeah.
But he's been doing it for a long time, long story short. But and then so my great grandmother bought the farm in 1918. The main farmhouse there she ran as a guest house it's like a old school sort of Airbnb situation. So people would come up and spend the summers here.
And they milk cows.
Yep, and they milk cows. And then my parents met because my mom worked there. And my mom grew up on a farm in the town of Pittsford, just over the hill. And so they were like, farm families in the area, so they knew each other. But yeah, and then
The family was farming on this road before that. They were just farming up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
So they stick 1918 on the sign because that's the direct
official
blood lineage, if you track your lineages by blood. But otherwise, they were farming. Weren't they farming up at Dave and Michelle Parker's farm at the end of the road? It kind of dead ends up there. We're not far from Goshen. You could pretty much sled to Goshen if it was down
there is a road that goes, you can't drive it, but and then I don't know, my parents were farming here. They were doing maple kind of as like it was kind of dad's like hobby sort of, and then they scaled it into more of a business. I don't know, would you say in like the 90s probably?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the USDA calls maple the first calendar crop of the year, and it was like a lot of farms, right? Like the maple was the side hustle is often what I say. And your grandfather sold syrup.
Yeah, I mean, my no, I don't think my grandfather did.
That's what Bob told me.
I don't know, we'll have to
I'm
ask
gonna
him.
settle a score of that out later.
But my great grandmother, she made syrup, and but that back then it was like really small scale.
Yeah.
And my parents kind of grew that in the 90s, and then they started like a small retail business. I think you'll have to ask my dad this one too, but I think he was the first maple operation to have an official website.
Whoa.
I don't know. Is that
That's
true
what he
too?
says. I don't know.
I think it was early. You know, you can go to the Wayback, you know, this website where you can get early snapshots of the websites.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see like the original or one of the original websites from way back. And so they you know, they made a living and they paid their bills milking a herd of
Mostly
Holstein
cows,
cows. And they had almost 60 head-ish when they were milking.
I think that was the most they had.
And then they raised dairy heifers and contract raised, and the maple, they took an intentional pivot away from dairying and towards maple. So this farm took an intentional pivot away from dairy and livestock and towards maple. And now, like I often say, it's kind of a joke, but it's a real thing. Jen and I do pay our Netflix bills with maple syrup now.
Except we use your mom's Netflix.
Yeah, we
account,
actually
so.
steal my mom's Netflix account. But we're paying
you know,
something else. We got the
Peacock.
HBO, the Peacock, you know what I mean? They add up. And so today, or this past month, you know, we tapped over 14,000 trees, less than 15,000 trees. And we're kind of standing in the middle. You can see this whole ridge we tap. We're looking east. So up that knob, down where it dips towards that saddle over there, there's around 5,000 maple trees we tap. We tap a couple thousand trees over that ridgeline, and we're actually pumping sap over the mountain now. And you see the main lines here.
That those
Under
trees
the road.
eventually go into that building.
Yeah, they go under the road. Don't tell the select board of Chittenden, Vermont. But supposedly Bob got permission back in the day. They haven't come back and asked.
We'll go that's grandfathered in, yeah.
And there's another, where we're headed to kind of the tip of the iceberg over here, there's another almost 7,000 trees over here. And then we lease land, like I said, over the ridge. We lease land a side hill over here, and Bob and Bonnie got access to more trees, and we're expanding right over here, kind of. And so we're adding trees. So I spent most of the morning laying out where we're going to next. That's the big picture. The farm in total is 585 acres-ish. It's a lot of land.
Yeah, it is.
There's about 120 acres of openish land. Most of that we graze with another young guy, Jamie Hamilton of Hamilton Cattle Company. He's got cows all over the place. How many?
I think he's got 300 to 400 cows,
300
and
to
about
400
I
head.
think there's usually like 60 of them here in the early summer, fall.
Yeah, so he's a young, smart, driven guy that's trying to get into farming. He also went to VTC, and he really had his heart set on dairying, and
He was working on the farm up the road. It no longer milks cows there, but they used to.
that was the last milking
Yeah.
farm in the town of Chittenden. And but beef was the direction where to go, where the money is, and so we lease him the land to do grazing here, and we market the beef too. So in that little farm shop that we stepped into, you know, we sell specialty steaks and ground beef. And
Yeah, I mean, I think it works well because we have so much open land that doesn't
Yeah.
have a use, and so otherwise we'd have to figure something out. And so it's kind of a sort of a win-win for both ends, for him and for us.
helps keep the land clear.
And it still makes it feel like with animals on the farm, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's picturesque.
It's active.
It
yeah.
makes it feel, I mean, not that we're not active in the woods, but when
Yeah.
you drive by, you don't see that.
You need
really.
animals to make it
No,
feel like a
but
farm.
well, we'll talk about the agritourism piece, but we do a lot of agritourism here, and I think that like that does, you know, when people come and they see cows, it's like really exciting.
People do like seeing cows.
There's two. They have Jamie, him and his fiance. They have 2 longhorns,
Texas
and they're just
Longhorns.
kind of pets. But
Those
they spend the summer here, and so those are people really like those.
So here we are at the tip of the sugar bush, and this is often where we bring tour groups. So you see
Yeah,
a couple
so you'll
trees
see
that have
there's
tapped.
some that are not tapped here. Those are the last of our trees that we have not tapped because we're saving them to do
We
with
didn't
tour
miss them.
groups. No,
You're saving them for
Yeah.
demonstration.
yeah.
Do you know about like modern maple and tools? And
Oh yeah,
tech
I'm
and-
certainly aware of the industry. However, not all of my listeners are up the curve. I'll
Sure.
say so.
Yeah, so it's like it's a really fast growing industry. It's quintupled in size maybe in 20 years. It's a $2 billion industry. And this farm has doubled in size in the past 10 years-ish in terms of taps. So we're tapping more trees, we're making more syrup, and partially why it's grown, right, is like market and demand for more natural sweeteners and less processed sugars, right? So less high fructose corn, less cane, and more maple and agave and honey. And so Jen and I came back to this farm. This is our
Maybe 15, I think.
10th
year.
sugaring season here. And pretty much every year we've added some amount of trees to make more maple syrup and market more maple syrup. When we first came back, her dad, Bob, said, you better figure something else out to do other than just maple. And so we had all these ideas.
Well, you're talking about Vern. He's the one that the blueberries. He was like.
We did reach out
yeah,
to Vern.
right?
Oh,
yeah. So we were thinking about
Blueberries.
We thought about hops.
We went to all of
yeah.
Heather Darby's hops conferences, and
And
hops
then-
are a crazy crop.
Yeah, but the maple just kind of, we were able to grow it enough that it's worked. We do have Christmas trees. So that's kind of like a side project.
We sold our first one last year.
Okay.
We
They're
sold
not
one.
very big yet. Yeah, we've sold 1 tree.
How many are? How big an area is dedicated to trees?
We can look at them if you
Yeah, we
wanted.
can
but
look at them. There's a
there's-
couple thousand trees across. Most of them are in about a 3-acre-ish plot,
We're still adding, but
and we plant them every year, and so that'll be a fun companion crop. There's a deep history of folks, at least in the Northeast in Vermont especially, that do Christmas trees alongside maple.
Yep.
Because of the seasons kind of match. Yeah. And so this farm has grown a lot and changed a lot. And what we're going to see over the next little bit, right? Like some things are exactly the same in the sugar house, but then like some things have really modernized. Like the tubing is all on high vacuum. We use electronic remote monitoring systems to get high production. There's a lot there we could dig into. What are you curious about?
I don't know. It's all cool to me.
Okay.
Your 14,000. That's pretty good size, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good size. Everybody's got different numbers. If you go to the Vermont Department of Ag, they think there's like 1,500 sugar makers. If you go to the Vermont Sugar Makers Association, they think there's somewhere north of 3,000 sugar makers in Vermont. And normally how they categorize it is like small producers, medium producers, and large producers. And so like anyone that's like maybe 5,000 and under, 7,500 under are like a small producer.
Right.
Anyone that's between like 10 to 25,000 is a medium producer, even though it sounds very big, right?
Yeah.
And then anyone who's over 25,000 trees, I think they consider still a large tap producer. And there's lots of those farms in
Yeah.
Vermont. You just don't necessarily see them or hear about them because they're not on Google Maps. They're not publicly advertising they're selling
retailing.
bulk
Yeah.
syrup.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're way out in the boonies.
Yeah.
Way out of the sticks. Yeah. There's a lot of them up in the Underhill. You know, where you're at, there's like either there or that corridor up in Franklin County. There's something like there's like a couple 100,000 trees.
It's ridiculous. For our farm store, I'm like, okay, we're in Underhill. I know there's a ton of it. And like, I'm Googling it, and there's like, you guys are coming up. I'm like, no, I know there's like, there's
So glad
saplines
that we're
all
popping
around,
up
and I
under
can't
Google.
find them
Glad the
because they're
SEO is working.
They're
for you.
wholesaling, you know, they're shipping it by the barrel.
Yeah.
Who do we know up in Underhill? Isn't William Butler? He's right there.
Is he in
That's who we're selling.
Moose Mountain
Yeah.
Maple.
Mountain.
Yeah,
Moose
he's
Mountain.
great.
Yeah, he's
I
great.
like him.
Yeah, good guy.
He's got a good sense of humor.
He does. He's funny. Anyways, so you know you're down here in the quote-unquote banana belt, kind of, and this is like, I don't know, we're at about 1,100-ish elevation. The top of the sugar bush over there is closer to 1,500, and we have nice, for the most part, like nice temperatures. The trees run well. This side of the sugar bush, these are all younger trees that we're looking at here.
And when we came,
Most of south facing, except for the 2,000 over the hill.
Yeah, it's like east and west facing, but we get a lot of this kind of southern exposure. There's not a whole lot of like northern exposure.
when we came back to the farm in 2015, my dad was just starting. They logged back here, took out a lot of the pines, and then this is pretty much all new since then. Everything back this way. Though they used to tap, my great grandmother before they were doing a lot of tubing. They used to tap back in that old abandoned sugar house and
Rusty buckets, hauling sap, and like Bob said just before, right? We don't haul sap here anymore, so it's all pumped.
it's really nice.
It is really nice. I mean, one way of thinking about sugaring is it's basically outdoor plumbing. It's like running an obscene amount of like drip irrigation, right? Like there's 110 miles of tubing on this farm with 10,000 little T's and fittings and Y's and Legos that keep it all together. And so, I mean, most of your listeners probably don't know, but modern maple is all made on vacuum. So you take like a vacuum pump like people would have in their milk houses or like the dentist's office, like the slurp tool, and you stick it on all the tubing, and we get a lot more sap that way. Like we might get 2-3 times more sap under high vacuum. And so like we are really obsessive. I mean, we're obsessive about a lot of things here. We have obsessive personalities, but we're really obsessive about maintaining high vacuum in the woods because it's like a real viability, make it or break it. Yeah. That's like in a pump
Otherwise,
house.
it's a whole lot of work for a little sap.
Yeah.
As it is,
As
it's
it
a lot of
is.
sap to get a
As
little
it kind
sugar.
of
Right?
So maybe we can look back here just so we get an idea of like how main lines are constructed if you've never seen them, right? But we're lashing these big, you know, these are for the most part high density polyethylene, you know, like BPA free food grade lines. We lash them to wire almost like a vineyard system, right? Because everything needs to be anchored, it needs to be supported. We want it on a 2% grade so it drains well. And like oftentimes, you know, that like we'll be the ones driving down the back roads of Vermont, like rubbernecking, cranking our heads around to see like, oh, you can really tell a good sugar maker by how their main lines are.
Yeah, sometimes you see the ones that are
Yeah, you
like
see the ones
this.
that are like waving, you're like, oh boy.
Amateur.
No, there's no shame here. There's no shame, Andy. Everybody's trying their best. But you know, it's good to see nice taut tubing, especially this time of year. So like our calendar workflow here is we like to clean up the tubing and the early winter, late foliage, hopefully. It's hard for us to get out to the woods these days because of the growth of the retail business. But we walk all of the sugar bush. So there's maybe 250-ish acres that we actively use for maple. With this expansion, we'll be at around close to 275 acres just for maple. And so we cut off trees. We make sure the pipes are nice and taut. We add trees. If there's trees that are big enough to add, we pull off trees that have blown over and died. And then so we're all ready to tap.
When you say cut off trees, anything that's fallen on tubing lines.
Yeah, right.
Because when you start tapping in January and you have a couple feet of snow, things are buried and frozen, and it can take like 2 times longer to tap your trees if you're dealing with that.
And so that takes a lot of time just prepping this season. And then for folks who aren't familiar with maple, every year you need to drill new holes into trees. Every year you need to pound new spouts into those holes and hook it up to either the tubing system or your bucket system, right, to gather the sap. And we start tapping trees early and earlier, partially because of climate, and partially because of the tools and tech in modern maple. So, like, if you asked Bob years ago if we would be tapping in January, he'd be like, that's insane. You don't tap trees in January. You know, in Vermont, they used to say you tap trees right the week before town meeting day, which is the day we all get in one tiny room and we fight over the budget. And so, like, they used to say, you know, you want those wounds to be kind of fresh. You can see an old wound right here, right? This is last year's tap hole. You want the wound to be fresh. So that when the big runs happen in March, the little vessels in the xylem can get essentially clogged, and the tree is healing up after you drill the hole. It does this thing called compartmentalization. So it's like walling off the damage. But some large operators, like there's one in this county, you know, they start tapping trees in November.
Jeez.
And then they have 50,000 trees or so to tap. And then if it's a warm green Christmas, they make syrup, even if they're half tapped.
They've made syrup before Christmas, I think, the past couple of years.
You know, a lot of people have. And then, you know, if you have a couple thousand trees tapped, then you can turn on your vacuum pump early. And if you turn on your vacuum pump early, you can kind of like tighten up the whole system. You can kind of like get the biggest problems out of the way. So when the runs do happen in February or March, then you're like, full throttle.
Capitalize on a January thaw.
Yeah. And so we made syrup in January. What was that? Was that 3 seasons ago now, Jenna?
It wasn't last year, it was the year before.
Oh, you know, I don't have the light. If we go to the other pump house, I have the breaker closed over there. Why don't we do that? It's right over there, and then we can see a cool pump house. And then partially, so this industry, right, like back in the day, there was always a January thaw, right? It's not like, you know, they invented that down in Washington, D.C. to fool us. Jenna believes in chemtrails and all that stuff.
Don't put that in there.
But, like, there was always a January thaw, but that, you know, Jenna's grandmother probably didn't go out and put buckets on because you might get this much sap.
Yeah, right, it ain't worth it, yeah.
It ain't worth it.
But if it's running right to you.
If it's running right to you, and you get 2-3 times more because you're under high vacuum, and you can fix all your vacuum leaks, like that marginalia kind of all adds up. And so, like, people have made a lot more syrup on the margins of the season, both early in the season and figuring out how to make sludge at the end of the season, basically until May. And the really big farms, they can make a lot of syrup at the end of the season, especially with this new boiling technologies like steam, and you clean up the sap so it doesn't spoil as much. There's a lot there. So the past couple years, Jen and I have been not on the early kick, but not on the traditional
I don't think
kick.
we'd have to hire more help to do the early, because we're really busy in December with holiday orders and shipping and packing and stuff. So like,
Ship and
I don't know how we would start that early.
Yeah, we might figure it out anytime.
How many crew members are helping you throughout the season?
There's right now, there's us, and then we have 2 employees, and then my dad.
Well, yeah, there's 4 of us, including us. So we have 2 folks, Charlie and Wesley. You'll meet Charlie. He's in the bottling syrup. Wesley's out fixing these new lines out there. You might meet him too. And then Bob is like bonus. He kind of does whatever he wants to do, and
right. But he's not under obligation.
Unless if there's an emergency, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same
There's a whole thing there. So just like maybe we should spell it out for a second. The third generation, Bonnie and Bob, Jenna's parents, who own this farm and own the real estate, and they own the maple production. They basically leased this farm to us, and we worked with farm viability and Sam Smith. Do you know Sam Smith? Yeah, he's great. He helped us navigate like how to think about structuring some sort of transition of just the production end of the business. And so,
and Mark
Canella too, who he's a real expert in terms of numbers and maple and how to value things, right? Like, how do you value old tubing in the woods, and how do you value this rusty old tank that probably shouldn't be used legally for sap anymore, you know, like all of these things. So the answer is 0, by the way. And so we pay them to use the farm and use the equipment, and one day we will eventually pay off that massive number. Although sometimes it doesn't seem like the number's going down, does it, Jenna?
It's a moot point because you're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
So this building needs to get cleaned up before the season, but this is just showing you how we gather sap.
Yeah.
And so, there's a mess of tubing that's coming into the wall. This fills up like a bathtub. This is actually like an old dairy bulk tank, if it looks familiar. That's why. Most maple producers don't use something like this. They use something called a releaser. Have we seen these things? They're like blue canisters.
Yeah.
How they function, right, is you need a way of holding the vacuum power. You need a way of holding the vacuum and also gathering the sap. And so this does that all in one. And this is set up on, there's, 3 well pumps in there, essentially.
Those right there, those are the...
Yeah, so those are liquid well pumps. And from here, we're pumping sap up the hill to the sugar house.
Okay.
A lot of your listeners, if they're not familiar with sap, a lot of people think of sap and they think thick and browny, syrupy, sticky, like pine pitch. But sap is not like that, right? Sap is 98.5% water-ish and 1.5% sugar. So it's moving through these pipe systems like water. It's freezing like water, tastes like water.
This is a fancy little pump house.
We put up this nice steel. Yeah.
Is it all insulated?
It was some blue board. You
Yeah,
should have
well,
seen it
that's
the other
something.
year when it wasn't insulated. It actually, the tiny amount of insulation we put in there does really help. There's still some heat tape. There's still like a couple nights of the year where you might put a light bulb in the tank to stop it from freezing with those pumps. But this little side space next to it, we do have a heater.
Oh.
So these are the vacuum pumps that we were talking about, right? These are what generate the suction. These are liquid ring. These are both 10 horsepower pumps. They're water-cooled pumps. They're hooked up to VFDs, variable frequency drives, right? So we can control the speed of the pump. They save power, but you can do cool tricks with these with maple if you're not familiar. Where if there's a lot of leaks, if we turn on the vacuum system and there's a lot of leaks over there, I can isolate it with valves and put one vacuum on this side, one vacuum on that side, and I can see, right, if the vacuum is spinning faster, drawing more hertz, there's more problems over there. And so you can immediately be like, we're going over there to fix leaks today. People have really, really fancy pump house situations now. So we call this a pump house. It's like a collection spot. People have some that are totally off-grid, that are run-off generators and solar that run 40, 50,000 trees. This one is like a little old school. We could put a fancy smart camera in here and look at the numbers, but we almost have intentionally not done that because it forces us to come down and actually if the thing is leaking water, then we want to know. If it's freezing in the next room because the heater breaker has tripped, I want to know.
Doesn't kill you to check on things now and then.
Yeah, it's a short walk.
Yeah.
So
if it was half mile away up over the hill,
Yeah.
and that's a different story.
And we have one. We have one that's so the farthest tree is about 1.5 miles away, and there's a pump house over there that almost runs itself during the season. But
Sometimes you gotta like remind yourself, oh, I should probably go over there and look at it.
Make sure those machines are actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The alternative, and what you see many maple farmers
Do you
do,
like that
like
bottom one or no?
I'm not sure it matters. It's just running water in there. We're not heating it yet. Is to like buy a truck and haul sap. So you see pickup trucks with IBC totes, right, on the back, or big tanker trucks if you can afford one, like big stainless steel.
But people will also like
trucks.
RO their sap before trucking it, so
Yeah.
they're not.
So you
they'll
don't
have
have
the
as
whole
much liquid
setup.
or
And
weight
haul
to
and
haul.
concentrate. That gets it up to 40%.
There's all sorts of different concentrate machines out there. I mean, most producers, if they have like a modern RO system, they're boiling at around 20-ish.
Okay.
They do make these things that are called sometimes hyperbricks machines that can go way higher, and you need to boil on like a flat pan evaporator. Have you read about these?
No.
So Proctor Maple, the University of Vermont's Maple Research Center, I think they have one of those systems still. And that's like one possible direction of the future of maple. And so the idea a lot of those people are doing is they're trying to keep the sap as long as they can. So like using chilled tanks or otherwise, and then concentrating the sap through reverse osmosis and maybe doing like 6 boils a year,
Oh.
right?
Just to save energy.
Save energy and time over boiling, like versus what we do here every day during the season is like you spend most of the daylight hours running around fixing the outdoor plumbing. And then as the sun sets and the temps are dropping again below freezing and the trees start dripping, you go back to the sugar house, you see how many thousands of gallons of sap you have, and we clean it up here like every night pretty much. There's
So you have a good run's day's capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every day is different. You know, some
Yeah.
days you look at the weather and you're like, oh, sap's not going to run tomorrow, so I'm going to try to squeak it through the night. Or you can play tricks with the sap always. So, like, you can force it through the reverse osmosis machine and just sweeten it up to 2% or 3%, and you can cut your volume in half.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you have more storage. Every farm, right, and this is true with veg farms or dairy farms, like there's a bottleneck somewhere. Like for a lot of people, that's labor, right? And one of the bottlenecks here is like liquid tank storage,
Yeah.
right? Like
And
sometimes you just have to deal with
space in
it.
general.
Space in general, as you will see as we walk through the sugar house, will be tight. But
That's common on all farms.
Yeah.
Never have enough space.
yeah, we are definitely in the outgrown status of the current sugar house edition. You know, the building we're going to walk through has had like 4 or 5 additions put on it, like one shed after another kind of a thing, like layers of shed, like in Shedception, like all the way down. Like, what is that, turtles on turtles all the way down? You know this creation myth?
No, I haven't
No.
caught that one.
I'm just talking about crazy stuff. But, so, Jenna's parents built this they poured the main slab in 79?
Yeah, I think it was 79.
So after he moved from the sugar house out back. Take a quick peek
Oh,
here
yeah.
really quick while we're outside.
Check out the portalette.
Yep.
The
I know when we do
Dundons.
tours, I feel like they always think I'm like headed to the.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a secret door here.
This door needs a diamond on it, like an old farm.
Yeah.
Have you seen Ken Hastings' outhouse? Did I send you a photo of that?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, he covered his plastic porta potty with a wood framed, like a more rustic.
Yeah.
This is
Moon on the door,
a
kind of.
Yeah.
bread loaf. Do you know this farm outside of Middlebury? They do a good job. We should do that with our porta potty. I had this whole thing. You want a side rant? It was COVID. So Jenna and I came back to the farm, we weren't selling syrup out of the front of the sugar house like the room you stepped in. We were selling syrup out of the back of Bonnie and Bob's farmhouse, where they always had like a little room.
There was a little room where my great-grandmother used to make butter.
She used to make butter
And it
there.
was kind of this like cold, unheated room that was attached to my parents' kitchen. And when we came back, that's where my parents had the store, so we were continuing to sell out of there. But then we grew the business enough where it was like starting to get really problematic with our
They evicted
relationships.
us. Yeah, they were like, you guys can't keep selling syrup out of
They gave us
our
like
house.
they're like, you have 2 years and you got to move it out. And it was just like, customers would come and we didn't live in their house, so my mom would be calling me like,
We lived across the street.
yeah, and so then we moved it down here. You'll see the bottling room and the store, so we built like a little addition on there, but it was
2017.
that was in 2017. And now we've like greatly outgrown that, and it's we should have built bigger. But
we didn't put in a bathroom
But we
because
didn't,
who
yeah.
puts in a septic for a sugar? Have you tried to
Yeah.
price out a septic? Like, whew. And so for years, we would have customers come by, and then we started doing these tours where we would walk down to the trees like we did with you and talk about all the things we're talking about. And then they would need a bathroom right about now with the door. Do you need and so then we would have to take them into our house, the whole thing. And that got like a little old and cold. And so then like peak 2020 COVID, I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll build a really, really nice outhouse, like a composting outhouse, and get like a really nice one that tumbles the poop, you know what I mean? And really breaks it down. And so I built this 10 by 10 shed, and I sheetrocked it and everything. Whoa. And it's got, we could look at it if you want. Whoa. Did we ever poop in there?
No, we never put any bathroom things in it, but we call it the poop chateau, and it's basically extra storage space.
But
really
we have
Fancy shit.
the chemical porta potty.
Yeah.
But we are in this nice little heated space. This is a reverse osmosis machine, right? It looks like something you would find in a submarine. So, these are big, these host the membranes, right? And so under high pressure, 400, 500 PSI, you force the sap through. You can separate clean H2O from everything else. And what we boil is the everything else, the concentrated maple juice. This used to be our bottleneck. We used to have 2 machines here, one here and one here. And then we got a working lands grant to upgrade the power service, because we couldn't even put this in unless we put more power in. And so that was huge. So this is no longer the bottleneck for our operation, because we would be up all night long just turning this on rinse, turning it on wash, turning it on rinse again, so that it's all ready to go for the next morning. So now we get a little bit extra sleep.
How much power service is coming into the farm?
Jen and I pay for like 5 meters with GMP.
It's really annoying.
With the dashboard.
And they've all been like transferred from my parents' name to our name, and like trying to navigate that has kind of been
pump houses, houses.
There's two pump houses, the sugar house, our house, and then we haven't talked about this yet, but we now have there's another house property
Jen and I
that
just
we
bought
just
a
bought.
fixer-upper.
It's a big fixer-upper.
That's going to be like a
but that's
farm
another
stay, short-term rental.
But as far as the sugar house goes, the service is
we have 600 amps, but here's another
Just for
story.
the sugar house?
Yeah.
600 amps?
Yeah, so when Bob first built this building, he did not put power in it. So he ran an extension cord down from the dairy barn. And he had like some Coleman lanterns. Then he direct burial, a nice power line, and then he had like enough power to run like lights. This is way before reverse osmosis. Yeah. And then like they came out with reverse osmosis, and he was like, oh no. So then they buried, they had like 100 amp service for a little bit. Then they buried the power line, and had like a 200 amp service from that pole over there across the road. And right then he had the opportunity to put an empty conduit right next to the other one, but he thought, there's no way you would ever need more power. And then 10 years later we did that. And we buried an empty conduit in case we need 1,000 amp service. You know, they make electric evaporators that are pretty cool. Yeah, they're sweet. They sell a lot of them up in Quebec, partially because they're incentivized to use Hydro-Quebec power and all sorts of things. It's unclear whether we would ever get one here, but they are pretty cool. Cool. That's the reverse osmosis stuff.
Want to go in the sugar house?
Yeah, let's go in the sugar house. You know, the core of this business is direct-to-consumer selling maple syrup. Like we were talking about, we do offer agritourism. We offer free tours, which is kind of crazy. Every service provider ever or UVM extension agent says, why don't you charge for your tours? You're absolutely insane. Yeah, Sam. And then, so on a good year, well, last year was a good year. We made about 8,000 gallons of syrup. And as of this month, we've bottled around 7,000 gallons of syrup just to sell out of a small jug. And so we do some wholesale, some like restaurants, some mom and pop businesses in Vermont, like general stores and things like that. We sell to the local school district now, which is cool to get local food in schools. But then like the bread and butter of this business is selling syrup by the jug or shipping it online. Most of these are orders that are going out today. We're running a sale. Like most of these orders aren't like just randos off of Google. Like they've come and made some sort of connection to the farm. They've either visited in person or watched a squirrel video on Instagram or something like that.
They're not randos, you say. They've been.
I mean, I will say,
There's some
I
randos.
think Jacob says that. He says that line a lot, but I think that more and more you can see on our website if they're first-time customers or not.
Yeah.
And I do think, that statement would have been right, like maybe 3-4 years ago, but I think more now we are getting a lot more random traffic through the website. But that's not to say that, yes, a lot of our good customers, loyal customers that are continuing to return by every Christmas, those, a lot of times are people that have come here, spent an hour with us touring through, and follow us on social media now and have a connection to the farm, enjoy the monthly newsletters and all that good stuff.
People that buy direct from farms are totally insane. I mean, you know this from your farm, right? People who come and pick their own flowers, that's their own special, wonderfully beautiful, unique breed of human out there. You know what I mean? The masses of America, they buy their syrup at the Trader Joe's and the Costco's and the Whole Foods of the world.
Yeah, you're correct.
But
it's not the average consumer that comes to a farm store.
Yeah.
So when Jenna fields emails and calls from people, we get the whole smorgasbord of the spectrum of people that love to buy direct from farms. And
I was just telling Charlie the people that call, we just were talking about this, are even more unique. You get the people that order, but then the people that will call you to order, those are the people that yesterday I was saying to him, I had a 25-minute phone call with one of them, just chatting,
But that's a generational gap, you think, for the most part?
I would say most of the callers are older
boomers
folks,
and Gen Xers.
Yeah.
And millennials aren't chatting on the phone.
The millennials are texting their order in.
yeah, we get that too, but yeah.
So that's a quick snapshot of the market of where things go, and then there's more. And then we also sell bulk syrup, so that other 1,000 gallons, right? We sell in a drum. And if you don't know much about bulk syrup world, there's really 4 or 5 really large packers that are often have their own farms that have outgrown them and buy up the crop from all over the Maple Belt, and then reheat it and repackage it. And they're the ones that are supplying the Safeways and the Whole Foods and the HEBs of the world.
Yes, we sell now a small percentage to them, a lot smaller than what we used to. And then we sell infused syrups. We have maple sugar.
Some value add.
The infused syrups are kind of fun. They're more unique to our farm where we're using things that we wild forage instead of like a flavoring or buying in things. So we have the birch bark, which tastes like root beer. There's this wild spruce tips, wild mint sumac infused.
We sell other products that, like, we sell the Butternut Mountain Farm, so we sell their candies and grains.
We're in the midst of a like brand refreshening.
Yeah.
Do you know Andrew Plotsky, Stitchdown Farm? They
Or
do
read
flowers.
it.
Oh, I know of them. Kind of like I
Yeah.
knew of you guys.
Yeah, so Andrew, we worked with Andrew who did a lot of the label stuff. So like you
Okay.
can see these are old labels. These are the new ones. So right now there's kind of a hodgepodge of of mixed on the shelf because we're just trying to go through old inventory. But yeah, so he helped us do the tin can project, and our friend Shane did the artwork on that.
I love that.
That's really
unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tin
They've
can is
sold
probably
really well.
like the best seller, quote unquote, hero product. Like, people love it. It goes great in gift boxes. Kids love it. Adults love it. Every character on the farm is a character on the tin. If you don't recognize, this is Bob with his round glasses behind the evaporator.
That's our dog Mavis.
That's literally Mavis. She's represented as a dog.
Yeah.
She didn't get another animality. We put the quote from Home Alone on the back, "You filthy animals," which we haven't gotten a cease and desist letter from them, but maybe we will if this goes on the internet now. And it's fun. Yeah. Cool.
We'll run with it till you're told not to.
Yeah.
Well, so those metal cans were popular for many years, but you could
Right.
only find them in generic labels for the most part. And why people don't do them anymore is because the minimum order quantities are like obscene.
We had to order
10,000
I thought it was
or-
eight
yeah.
8 to 10,000 of them just for one order. And so it was a little worrisome. We're like, I don't know how
Oh,
this
they're
is.
gonna sell.
But we did the math last week. We sold about 8,000 of them in a year.
Whoa.
We've almost gone through our second batch of them.
Yeah.
So did you order them with that label, or is that stuck
Yeah,
on?
it's
They get-
pre-wrapped.
They get wrapped in.
So you're committed.
and
Pretty much, yeah.
They make them in England. They were sourcing a lot of them from Asia for a number of years, and they had some supply chain problems. But so we buy them from a Quebec equipment manufacturer who sources them in England. So they go on a boat. They probably get tariffed like 6 times
Right.
to Quebec to pull through Quebec City, and then they get driven down to St. Albans, and then they get freighted here. Global food packaging supply chain is kind of insane.
So real cheap packaging for you. Yeah.
And this is Charlie. Charlie, this is
Hello.
Andy.
How's it going?
Good.
Sorry, it's a little cluttered back here right now.
Jugs galore.
Production.
Charlie often bottles like 3 drums a day.
Whoa.
Try.
So they're 40-gallon drums. That's like 120 gallons a day. A lot of it depends on the sizes, right? Like
yeah, like these little guys,
Yeah.
you know.
those little guys
Takes a
are
lot
fun to
longer.
bottle versus gallons.
Right.
But so this is like typically a dedicated bottling or packing space. And so when we built that room, we knew we needed a better bottling space. And so that's a leaky nozzle on a water jacketed canner. So that keeps it hot at food safety temperatures, right? So you can bottle it and you can take a nice lunch break and then come back. Wesley puts his quesadilla on top to heat it up someday. And this is the main part of the sugar house.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a mix of old school and new school. You know, you can go into up where you're from, you can go into some real fancy sugar houses. Like
Yeah.
people spend money on the infrastructure and the aesthetics of their sugar house. We could show you some old photos. Oh, Jenna has old photos right there. There's Grandpa.
Photo book.
Yeah, so that's my great grandmother's sugar house. And then this is the one that was built in the same spot.
In the same spot.
That's the one Dad said. He's really proud that he built it for $300.
He's really proud they built it for me. And he got these free telephone poles. And
Yeah. We do like a woods walk every October, and that's what this is. So we bring people out to the sugar house just as like a different tour than what we normally
like a
do.
foliage tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the sap buckets drying, and there's Dad.
Bob might have run 3,000 buckets, 2,000 to 3,000 buckets on any given year.
There's Wesley. But yeah, you can see like this is where the store is now, in the bottling rooms here. So yeah, there's.
Yeah.
I put it together because all the visitors like to see like the history. There's the pumpkins. But yeah, so we do a lot of events. So we do like the Maple Open House weekend, which is coming up, and we do a big pie contest in the summer. It's maple pie contest. That's to try to get people here in the summertime too.
That's cool. That's a good idea to have a photo book kind of on display.
Yeah.
Yeah, people like it. People have offered to buy it.
Yeah, people.
What do you say, Jenna, to
like,
that? No,
a
see, the
little funny
customer's
with,
not
like,
always right.
Yeah.
Says, no, not for sale.
But yeah, it's just fun to kind of flip through. There's when we first built the store and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's the addition in 2017.
There we are.
So we could kind of follow the flow of the sap. Those lines that from the pump houses, they're pumping up here and they come out of the ground. We've buried a lot of main line on this farm, which not every maple farm does because it's kind of insane. But a lot of the big operators now bury a lot of their infrastructure. It's less maintenance over time. And right, if you bury a line 3 feet deep, hopefully it doesn't freeze underground too. And so we pump up those lines. We have 25,000 gallons of liquid storage. There's tanks up here. There's 2 tanks here. There's a tank behind the wall. Oftentimes during tours, we show people tanks. Like people get a kick when you see the sap coming in. We have all this new tools and tech. We hinted around it, but like we have tank sensors now, right? So like I can open up an app on my phone, right?
And see how full they are.
And see how full they are. It's so nice. This evaporator that we're looking at is not a new fancy evaporator. Sometimes I call it this is like a PT Cruiser almost, like it's no longer fashionable to be seen driving, but like it runs. It's from 97 is the main body of it. We're part of the Vermont State Certified Sugar House program. Have you heard about this program? It's about modernizing sugar houses in the state of Vermont so they're compliant with FDA rules and regs around the Food Safety Modernization Act of 2007. So we got a grant to get a brand new steam away. And so everything that touches sap here is food grade plastic or stainless steel, essentially. And so this machine, right, is not boiling at these super high temps. We like to concentrate the sap up to around 20-ish bricks. Right, and then we run a pipe into this thing and it boils and it bubbles and it steams. Like we're perennially open to the public here, so oftentimes there's like tourists in here watching us boil, or there's neighbors trying to like drink beer, and we're like, there's kind of
working here.
Yeah, there's 2 types of sugar houses. There's sugar houses where they drink beer, and there's sugar houses where there's no beer. Yeah. And so we pull drums, right? We get a draw tank, so we might get a batch that's like, we might get like 30 gallons of finished syrup. We're measuring the densities with hydrometers, getting it exact. We force it through filter presses, and here we like filling 40-gallon stainless drums. This holds the syrup quality the best versus those stainless epoxy line drums, or people still fill syrup in plastic drums, but that's kind of on its way out. Syrup in plastic drums tends to spoil or ferment if you keep it for any length of time. And then at the end of the season, we will make a decision about what we need for retail and wholesale and what we can afford to bulk. And the bulking out of syrup is really nice because you can make one phone call and they come with a tractor trailer and they cut you a check and
done.
That's why a lot of people do it. Jenna's dad, Bob, wanted to, before we came back to the farm, that was like his retirement plan was, just sell bulk syrup and have fun.
Take the marketing out of it.
Take all the marketing out of it. Or the
we
fun
basically
out of it.
did the opposite.
Bob sometimes calls this place a content farm. This space we're slowly outgrowing. We need to find we need to build a better space for the bottling and for all of the product. We have a room, the old syrup room that we used to sell out of, that's full of product, finished product. We have half of a barn up there that has just empty jugs, all those tin cans, there's just a lot of like warehousing needs that we need to address in the next year or two. That's all in the forecast ahead. Yeah. Sugar houses are all built in different ways. There is a real need in the industry, and I was talking to Mark Iselhart about this. In veg berry world, there's all these like, oh, you got a template for a wash pack, you can laugh and snicker at it, but like at least there's like tools and templates. In maple world, there's like nothing, right? So there's no like best management there are some like from Cornell or University of Vermont about guidelines on about how to can syrup or pack syrup. But there's no like, oh, here's an ideal layout for like a bottling facility or something like that. Anyways. Okay.
I wouldn't know anything about that sort of thing.
We often do tastings at the end of every tour. Like there's 1,000 ways of like trying to get people to leave the room with a jug of syrup. Every once in a blue, you have somebody who signs up for the free tour that doesn't buy anything, but we're set up to ship things. And so that's often a big hook, especially if they've flown in. We have like travel sizes, like 100 milliliter sizes.
Yeah.
Right?
You can put this in your pocket or take a business card and order it.
Yeah, well, we try to get them to order here before they leave. Otherwise, they're out the door.
Absolutely.
We have other fun things that, I don't know, like our buddy helped us design lots of recipe cards.
Oh, wow.
So those are all free. And so, like, some folks really cook off recipes, and so, like, they see, like, the kebabs with the spruce tip syrup, and they're like, oh, I need to have the spruce tip syrup.
Uh-huh.
We try to make them, like, relatively basic recipes so people aren't afraid to try to tackle them.
We try to guilt trip them too. You know what I mean? The Franklin effect, you know this one? Where like, if you give them a free experience, they will feel indebted to you for life.
Yeah.
And so we move a lot of syrup out of this tiny little room. We probably have, if you include those events like open house and the pie contest, we get thousands of visitors here every year. But for the regular tours, we certainly get hundreds. The tours have been a big driver, and did you ever do sugar house tours explicitly when you were running the old syrup room out of the back of the house?
Not in an organized way like you do, but we did bring people down and show them around,
Yeah.
Well, ours kind of started in a not very organized way, and then we started listing tours as an option. People would then like email you to schedule a time, and then it grew so much that wasn't feasible anymore. It was just like people were like, but I'm leaving Woodstock and like at this time and I can't get there but then we want to have lunch. And I was like, okay. So then I created a booking app so that they could just schedule and you could list the time that we're available to do it.
And that's where COVID, it really took off, didn't it?
Yeah. The October during COVID was busy.
It was weird. It was like waves of different things. I mean, you probably saw this at your farm stand. Like people did a lot of pickup things, and there was a lot of out-of-staters up in Vermont. But then you would have like the Delta or the Omicron variant, right? And then people would close down again, and then you had different tolerances of kind of basic health safety too.
It was difficult because we did a lot of tours even in that year in October, and like people.
You had people from Florida who were like, "There's what COVID? What's that?"
Oh yeah, like people that might like refuse to wear a mask, and like we were requiring masks inside, and like this small little space with like 10 people in it.
And then we get like people in Tyvek suits too,
of course,
and they're like right next to each other, and you're like. Just kind of navigating it in between. But yeah, the tour business has been a lot of organic growth, and it's probably why this business has grown so much in the past 10 years. That and like Google reviews, and a lot of the Google reviews come from the tours.
Interesting.
And so that feeds the SEO. We're pretty intentional about that. Like every tour group that books, I email after asking for a review. And like not on every order, like right now we packed a ton of orders today, and I didn't write on everyone asking for a review because it's just too much. But like on the days where it's slower or whatever, I might take time and ask for it. And then we have like one of these that's in every box that has a QR code that links to our Google page to write a review, and then like the social media stuff on the back. So it's just a good way to keep people.
But those are important, kind of unfortunate, for better or worse. And like sugaring is kind of like the original agritourism. I mean, it doesn't work for like not everybody wants to go and muck shit out of a stall, but like a lot of people want to see a sugar house. And like way back when, I'm sure you were showing your neighbors, right? The sugar house when you were boiling and stuff.
Yeah, they'd all show up.
It kind of naturally lends itself to agritourism. And
It was a social event.
Yeah,
it's
It's
all
always been a
social
social thing.
yeah, that's true.
When do you do the most of your tours? Is it all year round, or?
We do them all year round. October is by far the busiest because of fall foliage, and then we generally take a break from them because we like are exhausted on talking for a month. But usually, like right after foliage, early November, pre-holiday, we'll take a break. This year we did do some tours during holiday season, but not a lot because we're just very busy with shipping and packing, and then we bring them back usually in first of the year, and right now they're slow.
There's
Ski
one
years
tomorrow.
is there? Yeah.
No.
We're close to Killington, so we got a lot of skiers and people that are looking for something to do on whatever, if they don't ski and their family's skiing, or if their kids are skiing, or if they want a day off from that. And then I would say March gets busy with tours again because people know it's maple season. And then the summer months is a lot of families.
Then they have a mountaintop inn. Did you mention that?
No, Mountaintop Inn is like right over the hill from us, and they do a ton of weddings.
They do a big wedding business. Like
200 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing an event there tomorrow.
Yeah, so we
We're
try to
going
build
there.
those relationships, so at least like the front desk or whoever's in charge of guest services know that it's like a value add thing for guests. But we also sell them a bunch of wedding favors.
Yeah.
There's some maple farms that just sell wedding favors. That's their main business. Why are you shaking
Little
your
tiny
head?
bottles.
Those little tiny bottles
They
you were
probably
saying.
get $400 or $500 a gallon.
Price per
It's
ounce
not
is
worth
very
it.
high. It's not worth it. So we're always looking at ways of innovating, or making the SKUs more profitable, or ways of making the whole business more efficient. And some things are very inefficient here, and some things we're just finally learning how to do right after 10 years. Yeah.
So that concludes part one of the conversation. Now we switch mics, pull up a stool, and sit down for part two of the conversation.
My name is Jenna Baird, and we are at the Baird Farm in Chittenden, Vermont. It's my family's farm that's been in the family for over 100 years, and we make and sell maple syrup.
I am Jacob Pausner. I am Jenna's other half. I'm not a Baird. They mostly just tolerate me here. And Jenna and I returned to this farm about 10 years ago. And I think this year will be our 10th season making syrup on the farm.
Yeah, and my name's Bob Baird, and I've been on here, I guess I've been here since I came home from the hospital in 1951, so I've been here a long time. My grandparents bought the farm, and they were both born on this dead-end road and wanted their own place, and they were on farms farther up the road, and they bought the place in 1918.
So let's run with that. How did you get started farming? You were born here, so where did it go from there?
Well, I lived with my grandmother most of my childhood, and she was kind of the matriarch of the farm. My grandfather was in the military, so he was gone a lot. So she mostly ran the farm. They originally made milk cows here and made butter, peddled it in the city. Then my father made bulk milk that went to Boston, and eventually we milked cows here till 1996. And sold to Agrimark, which owned Cabot, which is still around today.
But cows are not on the property here today.
No, when we stopped milking, we expanded the maple business. We've been making syrup here. My grandmother made it. My father made it. But we've expanded it a lot, especially after the dairy cows were sold. Yep.
Jenna gave me a hint, but what do you say today? When did you start making maple?
I tell everybody, started when I was about 3 years old. Is that?
I said 2, and then I said usually every time somebody asks, it's earlier and earlier and earlier.
Well, I'm glad I didn't say 1. But yeah, we had a kerosene stove in the kitchen. So if you put a pot of sap on it at night, it would kind of simmer away and steam all night. By morning, it would be, down 3/4. Never burned on there, but just steamed away.
That's good.
Probably had to re-wallpaper a lot.
No, we didn't get that much steam. Plus, we made 5 or 6 gallons sometimes, right? Just because we had 5 or 6 maple trees on the lawn, and we'd make a gallon from each one.
And would your grandmother sell syrup?
Not I mean, they used to.
Yeah.
But not when I was a kid. No, we had a tour aside from the dairy herd. She took summer boarders from New York City and Boston, and that helped make ends meet, especially during the Depression. Yeah.
You said when you were selling your milk and butter, you'd sell it at the city. What city would that be?
The big city of Rutland.
Okay.
Yeah, which at that time was the second biggest city in Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were sending it down to Boston
No,
or York.
no,
Yeah.
No, I mean originally they would just go with a horse and a
right.
car because they didn't have a car.
Yeah. Well, my podcast here is mainly about sustainable agriculture. We are a farm in the forest here at Baird Farm. So what does sustainable agriculture mean to you, and what are you doing to achieve it?
If you were running any kind of business, sustainability is about growth, like perpetual growth. With farms, especially family farms, oftentimes the sustainable goal is to be able to farm the next year, or be able to have the next generation be able to farm. And so for Bob, I guess that's a big success that his daughter's back here on the farm. And this past month, we drilled holes into trees that Jenna's great-grandmother tapped, 1918. So that's pretty sustainable. There's lots of things we could talk about when we talk about the maple industry, specifically in sustainability, right? These are all wild trees, and so we're not really planting trees, but we're using forest management as a way of growing healthy sugar bushes. There's a whole slew of value-added certifications here, right? Like we're certified organic. We have to meet more conservative or stringent guidelines when it comes to tapping practices, tapping guidelines, the forest roads, the length of the drop lines. There's a lot there. We're certified bird-friendly now with the Vermont Audubon. And so there's a lot there in terms of sustainability isn't just about the business and keeping the business running, right? But it's about the sustainability of this entire kind of area and ecosystem and the woods and the fields and everything that kind of keeps this place running.
Yeah, and I'd add land conservation to that mix too, because one choice we don't have here is to split the land up and sell it into house lots. So maybe that makes us be a little better managers. I don't know.
Yeah, we're big believers in land conservation, and Bonnie and Bob conserved most of the land here in the
1996, so it's been 30 years this year.
Yeah. And you worked for the Vermont Land Trust and helped conserve a lot of other farms.
Quite a few, yeah.
That's an important part of Vermont agriculture, and I think that is a sustainability metric that keeps farms farming, is selling those development rights to keep it open in agriculture.
There's a lot there. Yeah. in some ways that's kind of being threatened, right? Mm-hmm. Vermont for many years, they said it was 80% forested and 20% developed, but now those numbers are taking back, mostly because I think of housing and development in greater Chittenden County. But we just passed a law the other year that's 30 by 30.
And
did you follow
50
that?
by 50 too.
50 by 50.
Yeah.
Big goals.
What's a time that you felt really challenged farming? Or a day when you're like questioning, why are we doing this?
I think early on, when we first came back, was when I felt that the most. I remember a conversation with Jacob in the woods when we were pulling out the old tubing from the big woods. And we just, like, I remember having a conversation of, like, are we making the right decision? What are we doing? We could just leave and do something else. I think, like, every now and then you have those harder days like that, and especially in the beginning when we didn't really have a structured business model, like the potential for failure of having this huge farm and like legacy to carry on, and that we might not be able to do it. But I think we had the support systems to be able, like, my parents have been incredible supporters of what we've done. And, yeah, I don't know, we've made it work. But there were definitely some points when we were, like, the blueberries, that it was that phase when we were researching, like, are we going to grow blueberries? Are we going to do hops, which we know nothing about growing?
Right.
And
just because you weren't sure that maple could have legs on its own,
right?
For you,
Yeah, and I think that was certainly a stressful thought.
I don't remember that conversation at all.
Well, I guess that's good.
It's pivotal for her.
It was.
You or me. You know, one way is, like Jenna said, like, there's a lot of people that have helped out to make this farm possible and work and succeed. And, like, another question would be asked, like, I mean, like, this, we've been very, very lucky to come home to a family farm that, for the most part, the books were in order and the infrastructure was in order. And, you know, we've applied for all these grants and found support and found customers and boosters. Like it would be hard for us not to succeed, right? Is like another question, right? Like, we're not first generation farmers. There's a huge amount of privilege there. And there is this weight of, like, carrying on a legacy of making the farm work, which we are doing. I'm thinking about a day that challenged me was in the middle of COVID. You know, we make a junk-free maple ketchup as, like, a fun little value-added thing. And one time, I don't know what, I must have ordered it late at night, but I ordered a pallet. I buy a pallet of tomato paste. But it wasn't tomato paste, it was tomato sauce. And there was no way to get these people to take this tomato sauce back. And then I called everyone in the state, too. I was just trying to get rid of it. I was calling, like, the Vermont Food Bank and everything. No one would take the tomato sauce. And I had, like, a whole pallet of tomato sauce.
Donated it to Migrant Justice?
No, Food Not Bombs in Burlington.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And to make a lot of spaghetti.
Yeah, I think going back in the history of the farm, you know, when my grandparents first came here, they were only milking cows for a few years, and they ended up slaughtering the whole herd because they had TB. So that was a pretty low point. You know, they didn't really know whether they could make their payments, even though, you know, they didn't pay much, but there wasn't much income there. So that was probably a bad time. And even when we were milking, we had our ups and downs, but I've always felt when things are going really good, that's usually when things start going bad. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, probably. What about when they changed the bulk tank laws? Was there any consideration of stopping milking?
You know, I was just a little kid then,
Yeah.
so I don't really know, but they added on a milk house and put it in the tank. And
It must have been a big deal.
Yeah, and we had enough cows and enough land so that, you know, like the HomeQuest milked up there too, but they never put in a bulk tank, so they were done. But, you know, we had, you know, they were milking 30, 40 cows here, so there was enough volume so they could justify, you know, modernizing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you were milking, 30, 40 cows?
Oh, no. I mean, at our peak, Jake was talking about sustainability and growing and everything. We set a maximum because that was what our barn where we milked would hold. We never milked more than 59.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, we didn't grow bigger and bigger and bigger. We just stopped at 59 and kept our overhead as low as we could.
That seems like that's kind of what the average Vermont farm was back in the day, 50 cow barns.
Yeah, when we were, at our peak, that was kind of the average, but it didn't take long before the average was 100 cows.
Right.
But we didn't go there.
Yeah, the average is much higher now. Yeah, I think I recently heard that Vermont has more cows and is producing more milk than it ever has.
Yeah, I don't think it has more cows.
But we have the least number of dairy farms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many dairy farms left? 500? 400
Less
something?
4 something,
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think so.
Yeah.
Another, to bring it back to maple, they made just almost as much maple syrup in 1919 as they did in 2019. And production dipped in the mid-century way, way down. But like 100 years ago in Vermont, nearly every tree in Vermont was being tapped. Yeah. Do you think we should get smaller, Bob? Start pulling some taps out there, become more efficient?
Well, I'm not, based on what I just said, I'm not a big believer in getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You get a level where you can make a good living and be happy with it. That's my philosophy. But everybody's got different goals.
Sustainable happiness.
From your perspective, is there still a lot of growth and interest in small scale maple? You mentioned you're kind of mid scale, or is it more conglomerating and getting bigger?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think that both are true. I think it's more expensive to get into maple than ever before, but that's like a thing with farming in general, right? Because cost of land and cost of infrastructure. Getting into maple is spendy because it's like starting a winery, right? Like we looked at a bunch of stainless steel shiny things, right? And now there's even greater requirements when we talk about food safety and food regs, right? And so like you can't just like really go on Craigslist anymore and find a lot of lead buckets and make syrup really cheap and dirty anymore. But I do think it is a strong area that like a diversified small farm can make a buck or can pay for another crop or pay some bills early in the year. And you're starting to see the really large maple farms get pretty competitive for land and for sap. And so you see this dynamic that happens sometimes in crop farming too, right? So there's a lot of sap-only producers now that will sell to a sugar house that will boil down the crop. And there's a lot of profitability just there alone, just to tap trees and sell sap, whether you're hauling it or not. And folks like Mark Canella and others at the UVM have like sap calculators and all of these tools to help folks pull apart those numbers. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I was actually asked to video their forester training workshop where they were talking about sap-only businesses. So I, oddly enough, have heard about that. And it does seem to make a lot of sense because you don't have the overhead of the evaporator and stuff in it. And it may pencil out to have a truck and haul it yourself.
Yeah.
Sugar house is expensive.
Sugar houses are expensive. So there's a huge amount of growth, and just like we were talking about, like the diversity of sizes and shapes and the hustles and veg farming, right? The same thing exists in maple world. Like there's a lot of ways of making a buck, and for the most part, like the macroeconomics are really, really strong. Like demand continues to grow, and it's probably not going to change anytime soon. Yeah.
I've always felt maple syrup was an easy product to sell. You guys agree?
Well, the beauty of it is that it's shelf stable, unlike vegetables.
Carrots, mixed greens,
or milk. Even.
Yeah. So I mean, it's got
doesn't
that
require
going for
a walk-in.
And it's sugar. People like sugar.
Yeah, and
sells itself.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the tourist industry in Vermont is pretty big, and more tourists leave Vermont with maple syrup than any other product.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true, or are you just
Yeah.
making stuff?
No, I believe
All
that's
right,
true.
sounds true.
I believe that's true, and
I'm just thinking about like beer and wine, but
yeah, no,
maybe
I
not
mean,
so, yeah.
when you ask tourists, what's Vermont known for, I bet you'd hear maple syrup more than
Yeah.
cheese or beer or wine or anything else.
That's true in the States, yeah. A lot of people think cheddar, they think Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But then when we get international travelers and you talk about maple syrup, they just think it's a Canadian thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But Americans, because Vermont makes more maple syrup, makes about half the maple syrup produced in the United States, right?
53%.
53% last
If you
year.
believe the numbers. A lot of people are hiding their numbers because they think like, the taxes are going to come get them or something. The numbers are notoriously underreported. They don't have a good idea of how many taps are actually out there. Yeah.
Well, and then I was hearing from UVM that number of taps isn't necessarily a great way to measure the scale of a maple business based on how much vacuum you're running and
Right.
the trees and the location and the size and the density of the woods. Like that's not, it's a metric that's used a lot, but
Yeah, and I think most producers would be more willing to tell you how many taps they have than they are willing to tell you how much syrup they make. Because as soon as they tell you how much syrup you make,
Shows what
there's
a
a
good job
judgment.
they're doing or
Yeah.
not.
I mean, there's a judgment about how good a producer you are, how efficient you are, how much money you've made.
Yeah.
So they don't like to say that.
It's a little uncouth. Like if you're in the bar to ask somebody how many gallons they made. So if you ever bump into a sugar maker, the question to ask them is how many gallons per tap. Or the big boys, they say how many pounds per tap. And sometimes they'll share those numbers. And then the really big firms, they don't. They try not to share the numbers. Yeah.
you can do a little bit of mental math, but they don't give you the big numbers.
We believe in radical transparency. But you're right. The income does not equate to size, and this is with any other farm, right? Like some farms are very profitable and they're very small. You have micro dairies out there making artisan cultured butter that are doing great, and they got, a dozen cows. And same thing with maple. Yeah.
I know there's in the weeds. There's a lot of talk about wood-fired sap versus steam boiled.
What are you thinking? If we gave you a sample of each of them, you think you could pull apart which one's wood-fired?
Do you have wood-fired and not?
No.
No, not here. Only ours.
Wood-fired's getting harder to find.
I
Yeah.
know. You sell it at your... Isn't...
No,
But
they just switched
Oh,
over.
did they?
Yeah.
William.
Yeah.
I say you can tell if it's wood fired if it tastes smoky.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't.
But
think
then,
you'd
like,
notice.
according to
And it
Mark Iselhart, that's an
Yeah.
off flavor,
It is an
right?
off flavor.
So-
It definitely.
And so, like, a lot of people are like, I like wood-fired syrup because I like that smokiness. And then you're like, yeah, but, like, that's an off... Like,
But
if you
in a
tried to
taste
sell
test,
that
it
in
doesn't
bulk,
pass.
you
Yeah.
would get less pennies per
and
pound.
then
It would
there's
be-
people say RO versus non-RO.
Yeah.
You
RO
can tell the
versus
difference.
non-RO.
I don't know.
Yeah. I have not done the taste test.
There is something to be said that, the duration of the caramel, there's getting into the weeds and the nerdiness, but like the amount of time that the syrup is on fire is important for overall flavor and color to a certain extent. And so we were talking about large producers, the largest farm in the state of Vermont, they tap almost 500,000 trees, and they're boiling off steam-fired evaporators. So they boil this really even heat. It's impossible to burn the pans, and they make syrup so fast. So I said earlier, we make 40 gallons every 45 minutes. They might make 300 gallons an hour, and they pull drums off every 2 minutes. And so it's all really light, like golden. And once, even later in the season, like closer to April, May, we got strong off flavors at the end of the season. Some people call them woody or sour or buddy syrup, if you've heard of buddy. And so they call that late season steam-fired syrup Bud Light. You hear in the house. Yeah.
Good industry
going
terms.
on that.
No, this is going to be fun for all the veg farmers that are listening. They're getting some inside terminology. That's
Yeah,
great.
but if folks have woods in the back, like as like maple syrup sells well at a farm stand, and even if you can't sell it yourself or process it yourself, there's probably someone in your area that is looking for sap to boil down. Would you buy sap, Jenna?
I think what I value about our farm is that, like, it's all made here, and the connection of having it from here. And then to get into like more technical, we're certified organic. So if you buy in Zap, that sugar bush has to be certified organic. So there's a lot there. So probably not.
I am unfamiliar, but is there what are some of the key metrics that makes a Sugar Woods organic? It seems like they kind of would be by default.
Yeah, that's a question we get a lot from, especially on our tours, from people. But like tree size, you want to tap trees that are at least 30 inches in diameter or bigger. Amount of taps that you're putting in per tree. Distances between old tap holes and new tap holes, the length of the drop lines, so you can make sure you can have room in different areas on the tree to tap it. What else? As far as like in the sugar house, the defoamer that we use is a big one.
Yeah, so like half of it has to do with what happens outside in the woods, and that's everything Jenna's talking about. And for the most part, the rules and regs for organic maple match the same rules and regs like if you have enrolled in current use.
Yeah, the best practices.
Yeah, like kind of basically best practices. They are like a little bit more conservative. And then half of it has to do with like what happens inside the sugar house. Everything from like traceability to
cleaning substances.
But the defoamer is a big one. And so most producers, if you talk to them about the difference versus organic and conventional syrup, is organic folks for the most part are using organic safflower oil. And 99.9% of that is boiled off or filtered out. But you get a very trace amount. It's supposed to be less than 20 parts per million of any defoamer that you're using. And conventional producers are using Atmos 3000. And Atmos 3000, Bob will tell you, is a miracle.
It works much better than we used to call it Atmos 300.
Well, it's 300. It's 300K
maybe
or
it's on
something.
steroids now.
Yeah,
but it does defoam much more efficiently than safflower oil. But safflower works pretty well most of the season, but at the very end, it's a challenge to control the foam, at least with the methods that we boil.
And everybody has different foam sensitivity.
Everybody has different foam sensitivity. They've measured this at UVM Procter Maple Research. Abby measured it in a study. And so, and there's different ways of dealing with the foam. Way back in the day, they used to drip bacon,
hang a chunk of salt pork over the front pan.
Cream in the pans. And nobody's doing that anymore. For the most part, all the syrup you would ever find anywhere is all a single ingredient vegan product. And the Vermont statute law has it as a single ingredient product. Otherwise, it's adulterated syrup. But the organic syrup has been a huge area of growth for NOFA and VOF and Vermont as a whole. I think it's their largest sector of growth. They have over 200 certified organic producers. So when we came back to this farm, Jen and I were woofing out west. If you know about the woofing that's, I don't even know what that acronym stands for.
Worldwide Opportunities or Willing Workers. I've heard both on organic farms.
Willing workers.
Have you heard that?
It sounds so nefarious when it says
I
willing
usually say
workers.
the worldwide.
And so, and we knew organic maple was a thing growing in Vermont, and we tried to convince Bob, and all Bob had to see was the premiums, right, Bob?
That's all it took for me.
Because you do get paid anywhere between an extra 10 to 25 cents, depending on who you're selling to per pound. So if you're selling a gallon of syrup, it adds up.
Yeah.
It didn't really make sense for us, though, because we were buying it from him at the price that he could sell to Butternut when we first came back, because my parents still in the production business, and we were just running the retail, so we were buying drums of syrup from them at the organic price, right? Yeah. But then we were selling it as organic, but I don't think that our customers were really, like, for the most part, every now and then people are seeking out organic maple syrup, but I think for the most part people are not.
Some people care. Most people, I think, don't.
Yeah.
But so right now we're leasing to own the business. Before that, we were it was a family farm that kind of split its business in two. And so they were selling us syrup that we were reselling.
Yeah.
And so you took this family business, you split it in two as part of a vehicle for farm transitions, and now we're in the process of almost smashing the two businesses back together.
It got to be a bit of a challenge because the two businesses were kind of pulling at each other. Where like we were working for my parents, tapping trees, walking lines, making syrup, getting paid by the hour, and then we'd be in the woods, but then we'd see on our Nest camera that we had customers here, and we'd want to leave the woods to come here to wait on them, but then it was like, what's more important when they're, I don't know.
It feeds off each other, but yeah, your business is the selling side.
Right.
Yeah.
But now it's...
And then I'd be in the sugar house making syrup, and somebody'd come to buy syrup, and they'd want to
tour,
or they want me to make change, or that, you know, and so it was complicated, but not so much anymore, right?
No, we're figuring out new problems.
Yeah, a different complication.
Yeah.
Was that split intentional, kind of like a trialing it out sort of thing, like a stepping stone?
I think sort of, but also you still wanted at that point in your life, you still wanted the income from the production.
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of a lot of things, but I think it was a test for you guys to see whether you really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were only back for a year or two, and they didn't like it was easy for them to.
Like when I had my moment in the woods.
Yeah.
I could have just failed.
That was actually a test.
Yeah, but easy for you to pack your bags and leave. I mean, you had no commitments, but when you started,
right?
Well, like at one point, the business grew so much we couldn't have the store in our personal home anymore.
Yeah, we told them you kicked us out.
Yeah, so they had to, and I didn't want to add a store down here because I didn't really like retail. Mm-hmm. So that's a complicated process, but overall it worked out well. I think it was, that was maybe the first commitment.
There was a lot of leaps of faith, right? Because the question is, do you want to add on to this building that you don't own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to spend a lot of money pouring a foundation and putting in big windows and putting in a big electrical service to this building that you don't own.
That was their question. And my question was, do I want to add on to a building that I own for something that I don't want to do?
Like, well, I guess we'll try to see if we can sell a few jugs from this. I guess you were out of the back porch, so you knew you could sell retail.
Yeah,
here.
It was growing for sure.
The business model had proved itself out, but there's been there's always quirks and kinks to figure out along the way.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense too from kind of the trialing thing, because you don't want to hand over the keys to the entire kit and caboodle to a couple of young people that are just starting out, but you got to give them something where they can like do it on their own and make their own decisions too.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I sort of went through that with my father and grandmother, and so I understood the position they were in, and because we reached a point here where we were, if they weren't going to sell the farm to us, we were going to go look for a farm somewhere else. And you guys had that same choice too, really. It was a little easier maybe back then because farms were cheap. You could go out and buy a couple 100-acre farm for $50,000. Not today.
I think it was good too, though, that with the retail business, you and Mom weren't super attached to. Where the production, I think you were much more,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think they were easily like, here, this is yours, do what you want with it, we don't care. Not that you didn't care, but it was something that we could own and make it ourselves, like you were saying, and get creative with and build it. And I think it was easier for you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, to just let that go.
Yeah, well, that had been if they hadn't come back, our plan had been, we were expanding the number of trees we tap. Our plan was to eventually, if we tap more trees, get out of the retail business. Then at the end of the season, make one phone call, say, come and get it, and be done with it for the year, so we could do other things. But you guys like retail, right?
Yeah, most days. Yeah, there was a lot of kind of proving the techniques, and then Bob would see that things are working, and then he would notice it. Like I remember when we first came back, Jenna wanted to do email marketing, like start a newsletter, and Bob thought it was the craziest thing
website.
that you would send out an email every month.
Young hot shots in the technology.
So they're they're stepping stones for sure.
Did you guys plan to be sugar makers, or did you consider other careers?
No. I majored in social work in school. I don't know. I maybe thought that I might do that. And after school, we traveled quite a bit. That's when we were doing the woofing. And like we mentioned before, I worked for John Satz at Woods Market for a long, long time. And I loved that. And then we did similar things while we were woofing. And then we kind of got to the point where, like, we were living out in Oregon, thousands of miles from home. We really missed home. We ended up coming back and we didn't know what we were going to do with our lives. We're kind of at that point where things were very unknown and we needed jobs. So Dad needed extra help in the woods, and Jacob and I just started working for him for, I don't know, that one season, and things kind of fell into place, and we started packing syrup and doing the retail part and enjoyed that. And
When you first came back, though, you both had jobs off the farm.
we did, yeah. So I went back to work for John. I don't know if I was working full time there, but and then Jacob worked at Four Pillars Farm in, what town is it?
Whiting.
Yeah, we were both working off farm, but ended up making it work to be here full time.
I think when we came back, we knew we wanted to farm.
Yeah, sort of.
I remember
maybe.
a specific
I don't know
conversation
if I did.
with my brother, and we finished college. Like we had only worked farm. I worked some restaurant jobs, but farm and food and
related.
hospitality,
Yeah.
which is pretty much what we do now. But there was like we were talking about earlier on the walkabout. There was a big question about whether like maple was going to be the crop. Bob was really skeptical that we didn't want to do something with grass, because Bob says this farm's good at two things: trees and grass.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know a lot about raising vegetables on a commercial scale, but our land is stony, steep.
Yeah, hilly.
Yeah, and
You got some flat spots. You got some good soil.
Oh, there's
It's
good.
Vegetable
It's
farm
good
could
soil.
Make a good farm here.
Yeah. Well, and maybe someday it will be. With lots of water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Never floods all that bad,
No.
that's good.
and your spring hasn't dried up even in this past summer.
No. I mean, with the spring has been running over 100 years, never dried up on us. So, and to feed 3 houses and over 100 head of cattle. So.
That's a pretty good spring then.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
What
it
else
is.
do you need to farm?
Yeah.
Was there any major lessons learned or takeaways you got while working with John or woofing?
I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think like now that we have employees, being a boss, what I would do, what I wouldn't do, how to make it a fun environment that people actually want to show up to work every day and are enjoying it. Hopefully our employees would say that they feel that way. That was, I think, one of the big things. Just to put like your all into it. And I think one of the things that we've spent a lot of time with is just like the branding, the feel of the place, like to make your customers, like your employees, want to come and have a fun time here. I think we do a good job at that. And I think people loved just going to the experience of going to go shopping at the farm.
John wasn't a big market. I mean, he ran a big successful, booming market, but he
Yeah.
wasn't a big marketer, was he? Or he was and he wasn't?
No, I don't think that piece as much, but I think he was kind and made a point to talk to his customers. Like a lot, like the employees there were working in the farm stand, and we were really the people that you'd see if you came in, but if you were a regular there, you would get to know the farmer. And I think, I don't know, that piece of just like creating a community space, and that goes along the lines of like some of the events that we do here and giving back to the community. The pie contest that we do, we support the Farmer Food Center in Rutland and fundraise for that. Yeah, I don't know.
I think you made a good point, Jenna. My other daughter worked at Woods Market Garden for John Satz also. And a couple of years ago, she's almost 40 now, and a couple of years ago she was here with a bunch of friends, and I asked them all, what was the best job you ever had? And Jenna's sister, you know, she's worked for JP Morgan Chase. She's now worked for PayPal. She's worked in Africa. She's had all these jobs. And she said the best job she ever had was working at Woods Market Garden. Which I thought,
It's pretty cool.
if you could have your employees feel that way, you know, money's not everything. And she makes a lot more money at these other jobs, but working at Woods was her best job. Well, and then she said it was the best job I ever had, and we had so much fun. It was like a family. And then she said, then my sister came to work with me, and it was even better.
Yeah, I miss him a lot. That got me crying. He was like a father figure to me. And I think about him every day. Sorry.
No,
I wasn't
all good.
expecting to cry on the podcast. But he was a really good person.
He impacted a lot of people in the community.
Yeah, and I think he took a chance on people, and like a lot of my friends growing up, like we were kids working there, and I try to remind myself of that sometimes, because I mean, not that we haven't really hired any really young people, but he went out on a limb and high schoolers, and I just think of like how much that impacted me as a human and going forward in my life and like building confidence, and he was really good at just like being a friend too, and so I try to, with our employees, I really value the friendship I have with them. Sorry.
It's okay to be emotional. He was a good farmer too, right? And he was experimental. He did a lot of different things, from sunflowers, and you know, he was doing hemp. He was doing hemp at the, you know, in the later years, and was not afraid to take risks, I think. And yeah, that's probably a good lesson. I think we are definitely more willing to experiment and put ourselves out on a limb. Bob's probably more risk averse than we are, but maybe you were probably more of a risk taker when you were our age.
I would agree. You'll see as you get older, you get more risk averse. Would that be right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm all spun around.
The double negative in there somewhere.
There's a double something. Yeah. So I don't know.
But we did some things here my father thought were crazy. You know, his big thing was planting corn and alfalfa, and we plowed up all the fields and planted orchard grass, which he was trying to get rid of. So that didn't go over too good with him, but it worked out well for us.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Things that drove your dad nuts. That's always great to hear, a generation back.
Uh-huh.
Are there any other mentors or influences you guys have had building this business?
Other than Bob and Bonnie, who's not sitting at this table, who have taught us basically everything there is to know about keeping the gears turning here. Sam Smith, who we mentioned earlier, was a huge help. Mark Canella, who we also mentioned earlier, who for years helped us pull apart like numbers in our books, and he runs a Maple benchmark program, which is pretty cool. You can kind of see how your numbers relate to other people's cost of production numbers. Those have all been very helpful.
Mm-hmm. I think there's been a lot of people along the way that have just been really helpful. And I think of Dave Marvin from Butternut Mountain Farm. When we first came back, my parents took us up there and we toured around their facility. He brought us to their sugar house. We had a call with him, I don't know, I think it was in the fall, about a project we're thinking of expanding, like Jacob was talking about, our bottling space and making like a place to pack syrup and whatnot. And I think people like him who have just been open and taking the time to sit down with us and deep dive into things like that and share their knowledge. I know there's been others I'm not thinking off the top of my head.
People.
But
Chase from Whiskey Creek.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Dave because he's kind of been a mentor for me too. I've known him a long time, but I think he was excited when he first met you, and often when I see him, he keeps track of what you guys are doing, and he's always been very supportive, and I think he still wants to come down and see what your latest idea is. So, and he's a busy guy, you know, he's got a lot. He works with a lot of people, but he seems to care about the producers, and sometimes I think he cares about them more than he should, but he really wants to be a good person and support people that are getting into the industry too. And I don't think he sees them as competitors at all. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I admire about him was they haven't been here in a bit, but they do try to visit the sugar houses that they're buying from, which I think says a lot. And just getting to know their producers.
Yeah.
What was easy when you were starting your career versus what might be harder now in the industry?
It's a good question. I mean, we were selling bulk milk, which can't get any easier than that. And back then, we were guaranteed a market. So it's changed today. You know, if you want to start a dairy farm, you might not have anybody to buy your milk. But back then, anybody that's starting into farming could not only guaranteed a market, but double your size, you're still guaranteed a market. Quadruple your size, still guaranteed a market. You know, it's not that way. Although bulk maple syrup, you know, if you quadrupled your size, you wouldn't have any trouble selling it.
Yeah, it's because it's a growing market still. And for the most part, collaborative and not so much
for some reason, if maple syrup sales collapsed, it would be challenging. But the way you're marketing your syrup, you're growing your own market, which we didn't have to even think about. That might be the biggest difference, really.
No, that's a huge reflection.
Yeah.
You know, because we always talk about, or you hear people talk about, oh, back in my day, things were different, you know? Mm-hmm. And we're faced with a different set of challenges now. I can't even imagine what we'll be saying in another 30, 40 years.
Financing, sometimes we talk about, right? Like back in the day, if you went to Farm Credit East or you know, like I assume it was, if you were trying to start a maple operation, very, very rare, right?
I would, yeah. Not today, but back then it was.
And now they do a huge amount of lending in maple, again, because there's so much capital upstart costs. And it's proven to be a good growth sector, and people have gotten better, more stable, consistent crops. Like the industry has almost proved itself number-wise. So financing is a big thing. There's a lot of new maple farms that take on financing. Yeah.
Do you see the climate as being a big threat, or do you see that as more opportunities to get those early runs?
Oh, boy.
I mean, I think I see it as a threat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a threat to much of life on Earth.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting that step forward. And specifically with the maple industry, it is highly vulnerable, right? Because we're talking about sensitive habitats, mostly wild things that aren't planted. The maple production area is supposedly going northward by something like 15 kilometers or 15 miles every year. At the same time, like, you know, it's not going to all go kapooey if we have a 2 centigrade change to a warmer world. But there's a lot of things to be very, very, very worried about with the changing climate. And it's something I think, we feel like we've seen it in our lives, and I'm sure you've seen in your
I guess
lives.
that's more the question, is what have you seen?
Tapping trees earlier, for sure, is a big thing.
Less snow, less snowpack.
Less snow, less snowpack, which affects the trees. Droughts, right, which in the summertime will stress out the trees, so they change how they store their energies and give up energies in the springtime.
It is, and it's already anxiety provoking at the beginning of the season, not knowing what your season's going to be, and knowing that what we do relies so much on it. It can even just be like a few degrees difference that can change things drastically, I think.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, listeners might not be super familiar, but hot weather kills a season. So if, you know, all the vegetable growers are happy when you get a 70-degree day in March, but sugar makers are pulling out their hair because that will kill a season, and a short crop really hurts a lot of people. It hurts the entire industry. And there've been other adaptations too with climate change, right? So now almost everyone also taps red maple trees, and that's largely seen as a way of adapting to climate. What are you going to say, Bob?
I mean, the winters are clearly warmer, and we are getting, we're getting more and more sap runs in January and February than we used to. But you guys haven't really seen the worst seasons I've seen in my lifetime. Were 1981, when the last week of February, with the grass greened up and the flowers started blooming, and we didn't even think we would tap. And then the worst year was 2010, when we had 3 or 4 days where it hit 80 degrees.
2012?
You're right. I think it was 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
It was a notoriously bad sugaring season.
Yes,
People talk about it.
2012, yeah. So
2021 was a short crop for many producers in Vermont.
Not like disastrous like 2012.
What about the ice storm of 99? Where were you?
Fortunately, it didn't affect us here. Oh. But we did have one other really warm season that ended quite early. So you never know what you're going to get, even with normal weather patterns. So, and since you guys have been back, we haven't had what I'd call a really bad year here.
Don't say that yet.
But
karmic cycle, Bob.
It's gonna come. I guarantee it.
So, what are you saying? Store up our syrup in our stainless steel drums for a rainy day,
or save a little money in the bank for rainy day.
That's what I was thinking next. Is it challenging to manage inventory with this yo-yo of make it in the spring, sell it in the fall, but then you want to offload it all because you're going to make more, or it's a different selling cycle versus the veggies I'm used to?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacob does a lot of the numbers on that at the end of the season, kind of crunching of like what we project our sales to be, what our projected growth is, and then figuring out what we have left to bulk sell, which is becoming less and less and less, which I guess is a good thing. And now we're kind of at the point where we wholesale some syrup. We do sell to restaurants, but like at a certain point, maybe that we shouldn't be doing that. We should be retailing that syrup at a better margin.
Yeah.
And we're trying, not that we're not taking on more wholesale accounts, but I guess we just like aren't actively seeking them like we were before as much.
Yeah, the decision making is easy now, and it's save every good tasting drum of syrup we make. But 5 years ago, even, it was much difficult because we had tighter books. Mm-hmm. And so you really do need to think about how much can I cash flow, right? Or how much bulk syrup do we want to bulk out versus save retail? And at the end of the day, like many maple businesses kind of have escape ramp, which like we could buy in syrup if we wanted to, and many maple farms do, right? Like I'm thinking of half a dozen maple farms on the main drag that look like they retail more syrup than they make. They are definitely retailing more syrup than they make. They're just buying in drums of syrup, and it's like everything else in farming. The economics are broken. Like many maple syrup farmers will tell you it's cheaper to buy syrup than it is to make it. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And so the folks are financially incentivized almost to be like, oh, we'll just buy in the syrup and build our business that way. There's a lot there we could pull apart.
Yeah, that's a whole nother deep diving conversation.
Yeah.
You've leaned into retail, and you mentioned a lot of the tourist traffic and tours you give has been a big leverage for growth, but what do you think really got you into shipping and like going beyond the neighbors that drive down the road and the leaf peeper traffic?
My parents were shipping a decent amount. I mean, I don't know what your numbers were, but we were already set up to do that. And then, I don't know, I think building the newer website and then building an even newer we've rebuilt the website twice I think since we I think just because we were already set up to do it, we just expanded on it.
Yeah, I mean, when I first tapped more than 100 trees, that was back in 1973. The first year we started shipping syrup, and my grandparents used to ship it. So it's
your grandparents would ship syrup.
Yeah.
So they taught you how to do it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So because there's so much syrup in Vermont, you got to get it out of state, really.
So how did you do marketing without the internet back then?
When people would come here, we get their name and address, and then I think since the mid '70s, we had a farm newsletter once a year that we'd send out either just before Thanksgiving.
And he was poo-pooing
snail
newsletter, yeah.
And then
it's a lot cheaper to do it by email.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And then I think we peaked at maybe we're sending out 3,000 of them.
Whoa!
As kids, like it was always fun. We would like stamp and label and. For them.
Yeah.
Because you didn't pay the extra couple pennies to get them.
The labor to do it.
To get them labeled at the mail house. Right. Yeah, you had to hand. And we were still doing this, Andy, up until like 3 years ago. And we might bring it back. Print advertising is kind of back on the rise.
I love print advertising, but it's expensive.
It is expensive.
And I don't know, the last time we did it, we were doing like a full-on brochure thing that folded out. It was really pretty. There was photos and like winter update on the farm and everything. And then after that was really expensive. Then we switched to just doing a postcard. And then I was like, maybe if we put a discount code on it, we can actually see how many people are buying because of this card. And like the numbers just didn't really add up.
One of the best lines John Satz, we did a workshop with John Satz. Do you remember what he said?
Mm-mm.
I
don't think so.
He was going on about like if you think about like starting to grow whatever butternut squash or cabbage, and you look at the numbers oftentimes they don't make any sense at all. And so what do? You just change the numbers. Don't remember him saying that?
No.
Oh, it's a good line. Very memorable.
Just make it look good.
Yeah. Make the numbers work.
So that's interesting that you've been that's just interesting that you've been in the selling of maple nationwide for a long time.
Yeah, and we actually had one of the first maple websites in Vermont. I think it was back in the 90s. We went to a workshop to learn about the internet and how to get hooked up and how to do a website. I think we did 3 different websites before you guys came back.
Yeah.
And the first one was pretty rough with dial up and it didn't work very well, but we tried it. I think we paid somebody $1,000 to set us up. Back in the 90s, early 90s, that was
That's the
quite
price
bit.
of a home in the 90s, huh?
Close.
So you've got some real Google ranking because your name's been out there
Yeah, I
for
guess so.
30 years.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's because we pay them. Yeah, and people have been selling syrup like that. It's kind of an age-old story, at least in Vermont. Selling syrup out of the farmhouse, shipping syrup. I think it's a way that has kept farms in Vermont going for a century.
Is it all organic growth, or are you using paid advertising too?
There's some paid. Jacob will
Yeah,
answer that
sometimes we pay Google ads. I don't know. We're bad at that kind of stuff, but it's mostly to experiment with it and try to learn. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to dance with the devil to understand the music.
You sold on Amazon too, right?
Oh, we've done every
Whoa.
hustle. Whoa, yeah. Those are the overlords.
That's crossing the line.
Yeah,
Just to some.
Seriously. We sold on eBay, Etsy. Not a whole lot of syrup is sold on Etsy, but there is one Vermont producer that does very well on Etsy. We sold ramps and maple syrup on the side of Route 7 with a spray-painted sign. We've tried to sell syrup in every physical possible way, shilling ourselves on the internet. But over the years, we've learned the best thing to do is to control your channel, control control the narrative, control the story, right? Especially on sites like if you try to sell consumer packaged goods or value-added food products on Amazon, people buy it and they resell it, right? So like we were having people trying to buy our syrup on Amazon and resell it for like $120, and just horrible stuff. And Amazon is a race to the bottom. And a lot of people feel like they need to be on Amazon to get their algorithmic backlinks up and all of these things. But the only person that wins on Amazon is Amazon. A lot of companies just have it as a loss leader, and the grocery world is insane. Like big food, once we move past the farm and we start talking about like grocery stores and, slotting fees, right, where you have to pay the grocery store just to be in the grocery store, selling food in the modern world is broken. So we're happy.
We still have retained some of our Amazon customers that now just liked our syrup so much. I guess they wanted to buy it direct.
Few.
Yeah, a few of them. But the numbers just didn't make sense. So it did really. We sold a lot, especially during COVID. There were a lot of Amazon orders coming in during COVID, but
yeah, this is kind of a strange business. Most of the. And then we feel it, too, when we go to, a farming conference. We are, quote, unquote, farming here. But it's not like it's like half of what we do, it has to deal with all of these other things. Like, half of farming is making the thing, but half of farming is marketing and selling the thing. And we exist in that world 8 months of the year. Yeah.
Right. Right, the actual making of the stuff's pretty condensed season.
Yeah, it's a pretty short agricultural harvest hustle. Yeah.
So you're not doing much wholesale of, we'll say, retail packages, like you said, to the grocery stores, or is that?
No, with the tin cans, those we did do a lot of sales to, like Cold Hollow was selling them, Cabot Cheese sells them, the City Market.
So the co-ops of Vermont.
Yeah, Middlebury Food Co-op. So we kind of have like a route up Route 7 that we'll do, but those are really like the main tins are the ones that we wholesale. The gallons to restaurants we ship to like some fancy restaurants out west. I kind of like those because it's like easy. You just put it in a box, you sell, and we've established some really nice relationships with some of the restaurant owners. But yeah, definitely not a whole lot of grocery stores.
I think Fair is actually how I found you guys. I
Really?
found the tin can on Fair, looking for Vermont products for our store.
Okay. Yep.
A lot of people use Fair. I understand why they use fair. I mean, it's nice and easy, right? You get this whole thing, and you can get it shipped, and you can kind of you can categorize by localities and zip codes. But I wish people who buy from fair would just call us, and I'd give them a better price.
Right.
Yeah, and take fair out of the equation, because fair is kind of like a middleman. Fair is like a e-commerce aggregator. It's like Amazon for businesses.
FAIR?
Yeah, FAIRE. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
And so, like, if you run like a cute little cafe in Burlington and you want like Vermont products, you could go on it and have a lot of them shipped to you.
Business to business, yeah.
Business to business, yeah. Those are the technical terms. Cool. Yeah, no, a lot of people have had a lot of success on fair. Yeah.
Do you find social media marketing to be a big driver for you, or is that just one of the other things that you also throw your hat into?
I think more so it probably just maintains the customers more. And I think, like we talked about, just developing relationships with customers, it's a really good way to continue that relationship once they leave the farm. I mean, I definitely think it helps sales. I'm not sure how.
It's hard to track social media, but I think it's very low that people that like see a silly video of Bob dancing on Instagram and then want to buy syrup. But what Jenna's talking about is very true. Like long-term customer acquisition, reminding them when their jug is out. Oh, I see it. Right, a post reminds them maybe to buy more syrup. At least that's what
But also the silly video of Dad dancing makes them want to come back and keep watching because they're funny.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, we generally enjoy social media until we're like doom scrolling and realizing it's killing our soul. But like we do social media, I think, partially because we like doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the events that we do too, like Facebook's a great platform to get the word out about events like the Maple Open House, the Pie Contest, all those different things that we've done.
The customer retention is a good point. I think you're right. You're keeping the existing customers interested and not forgetting about you.
Mm-hmm. And we try to, before they leave here, I showed you those little cards, like often we'll give them one of those to remind them to go follow us.
Like you have a seasonal business, and I'm sure you post, right, like sweet corn's ready, or like, all of these things. We don't really use Instagram like that, but maybe we should.
I think it's a good avenue to storytell with, and I think that's mostly what we use it for. And like, I look at our posts sometimes, and I'm like, we haven't posted about maple syrup in months. Like,
not talking about the product.
Yeah. But just storytelling of the family and what's going on the farm and like everyday living, I guess.
And he's part of social media, and do you know about it? Are you on it?
More than I really want to be, but the weirdest thing is when I go to Rutland. One day I went to Rutland City and just down in the street ran into two people that said hi to me. And I'm usually pretty honest. I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. And they say, "Oh, you wouldn't. I've never met you. But I know your name." And then the worst one was that same day. The guy who was almost my age, he says, "Do you mind if I take your picture? My girlfriend's not going to believe I met you in person."
At Harbor Freight.
He was at Harbor Freight.
For all the listeners, Bob is blushing on both cheeks right now.
A local celebrity, yeah. I mean, you got your own merch, stickers, T-shirts.
Yeah. How does social media work for
bags.
you? Do you think it helps a lot for customer retention? Are people using Facebook a lot Instagram?
I think it does for our farm. What I find is that a lot of our customers, our local customers, are on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a lot of farmers follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'll post the same thing to both, but it's two very different audiences, which I think is interesting because I get a lot more interactions, comments, whatever on Facebook, which is interesting. But yeah, I try to use it fairly regularly for like a weekly update, and a reminder on that Friday afternoon. Hey, corn's here, flowers are blooming.
Yeah.
Do you segment your audience? Like every marketer you ever talk to, you should segment your content for different audience. You do that or not? You just like
It's time consuming.
throw it out there.
Yeah, I just throw it out there because in the world of so many posts, like if I manage to get 3-4 posts up a week, like that's not spamming the network.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need that repetition. So
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I have some YouTube pages too, and that is a completely different genre. And so that I do treat differently. But Instagram and Facebook, I just repost to both.
We do too.
Let's see. One question I like to ask everybody is, what's something you wish the general public knew about farming, agriculture, the working landscape?
Bob's got one.
I can't help but think of what Jenna has said. People, especially when she's having a bad day, she goes, people don't realize how hard this is. They look at Facebook and Instagram and think all we're doing is having fun. But it can be, it's like any job. It can be stressful, very stressful.
Long, tiring.
Yeah,
Yeah. Relentless.
A bus just showed up.
Yeah, I think that like the outdoor aspect of it in the winter time, and I feel like I stress this sometimes in my tour, maybe way more than I should or need to, but like to get across that, yes, like we're out there having fun, but there are days where it is raining, like it's
Freezing
cold, and you're out there all day. You comment. I just remember this past season, we were all out there. It was, I think, one of the first big days of the sap run, and it's almost always like one of the more miserable days because it's usually like things are really wet. There's a lot of snow on the ground, but it's warm enough that like your boots just get saturated. And it was raining, and there was a couple feet of snow on the ground where we were sinking in like every step. I don't know if you remember that on the mountain there, like up to above your knees, and it just took forever to walk one line. And at the end of the day, we all came in and we like wrang our socks out into the floor drain. Another farmer friend of ours from Foxglove Farm, I don't know if you're familiar, Mark Reichart, was referring to that as, we just heard him do
Talk.
he spoke at Acorn's annual meeting, and he was talking about it being called type 2 fun, where like it's not fun in the moment, but it's fun afterwards. But yeah, I think to Dad's point, just like the hard work that goes into it.
Maple sugaring has its own type of romanticizing.
That's
Like people
true.
romanticize farming. People really romanticize making maple syrup. More so than probably, thinning carrots and things like that, which nobody's romanticizing that. I think the one thing I would say that I wish the public, I think a lot of people don't think about everything in the world around them, that how much work and design has gone into something, right? Like we are farming vegetables the way we are farming them because of hundreds of years of iteration, experimentation, and hybridizing seeds and all. And then same thing with maple, right? Like people have always made maple syrup. And so there's we are standing on the shoulders of our ancestors sort of and carrying their tradition forward is an important thing to acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people understand that better when they do a tour.
Yeah,
Actually,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that's one good thing about the tour. is that-
Education.
Yeah.
It always amazes me when you get a customer to hear what surprises them, because they'll be like, "Oh man, this hill is steep," or something that is absolutely ridiculous for you to think about. Like, oh, the cucumber plants are prickly. It's like,
Yeah.
so
That
continually
maple syrup does not come out of a tree. The classic ones.
There's a lot of classic ones like that. But you will always be surprised at how disconnected people are from nature.
But it's good because I think that people tend to be really curious, and they do want to learn, and that's why they're here. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I got two final questions. The first one is, what do you wish you knew what have you learned? Like, what do you wish you knew when you got started that you learned now? Or if you could tell your younger self something.
The
That's what I
building
was gonna
bigger,
say.
or do it right. It's probably worth not cutting corners. It's probably because you will redo it. I mean, we just talked about how many websites this farm has built, right, Bob? I mean, that's something that needs to be. But like, I wish we built that bottling room bigger.
How would you have done that?
Built the bottling room bigger.
Yeah.
More 2x4s. Maybe 2x6s.
I don't know. I would. That's the first thing that came into my mind too when you asked the question. Is just the space. Like we on a daily basis struggle with the space, and I think it's funny because when we built the bottling room in the store, we were so proud of it, as we should have been, I guess. But one of our neighbors, came in to check it out, and like the first thing he said when he walked in is, "Nope, you should have built it bigger." And we both were like, felt kind of like insulted, like, "Come on, we just put can't you say something positive or whatever?" But he was right.
He was definitely right. It's again this problem about right sizing, right? And that's a problem around planning and really thinking about where you want to be 5 to 10 years, and it's really hard to do that.
Like the financial aspect of it,
Yeah,
like
you
we didn't have a lot, and so
Right.
this was a lot. These two little rooms, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you were just getting started, so and I'm not sure you were 100% sure you're going to spend the rest of your life here, So, how big do you
don't know what the future holds.
How big do you want your first project? One of the first projects I had was building the main building here, because we were going to buy the farm, and then after we got the building done, my father changed his mind and said, "No, I'm not going to sell you the farm." And we had to say, "Well, we're going to leave, and you can keep the sugar house." So you never know what the future's going to bring.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I think when we first built these, we were talking about this addition here. You thought, "Oh, we might seasonally bottle in there a couple times in the summer," and now there's at least 3 of us full time in this building. Yeah. What's your answer, Bob? Other than build it bigger, something you wish you
wish I'd done different.
Wish you had known when you were starting out.
Of course, you started out with the dairy industry, and interestingly, a lot of the things that I built 40 years ago, some of them 50 years ago, the last 10 years I've been either mostly tearing them down, because you don't know what the future's going to bring. You don't know how things are going to change. Fortunately, we didn't, borrow $1 million to build these structures. That everything from manure pits to silo rooms to sawdust rooms, and and the freestall barn, all those things have changed, and you never know what the future's going to bring. So I think you have to be somewhat cautious about the future.
Did you leverage debt, or did you do stuff as you could?
Of course, my father was very big about not borrowing money. So when we started out, the only payments we had were to him. But then I learned, we paid cash for almost everything. But then I realized, if we borrowed money to buy a tractor, then we could take the cash and invest it, and often investments will work out better than farming. So it gave us kind of a cushion.
So would you have invested in like the stock market or farm equipment?
Land, stock market, something besides
out of this industry.
A building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a beginning farmer or somebody looking to get into sugaring?
I think my answer would be, if somebody's just trying to get into it, try to keep your costs down, be cheap, and sell high, right? So like value what you make, know your cost of production, and pick a number that is at least twice as much or 3 times as much what it costs you to make it. Yeah, value yourself.
What do you mean by that?
Like pick a number as
like
your goal?
if it costs you $20 to make a gallon of syrup, you better be selling it for at least $60.
Oh, I see.
And there's so many people, sugar makers out there that range from hobbyists to very large producers that don't value their actual numbers, right? That sell syrup too cheap, that don't value their time, that don't pay themselves, or don't work their hours into their actual cost of production. Like, oh, I'm just working for myself. I'm building equity. You gotta value your own time. And I say that as somebody that offers free tours to the public nearly every day of the week.
And Jacob, how many hours a year do you spend with tours?
I don't want to think about that.
That's just chalked up to marketing expense.
That's marketing.
I think for me, I guess if it was a sugar maker that wanted to retail syrup, I think just like going back to the marketing stuff, the aesthetics of things sells. Having a nice website. I like design. I love doing that. So I think spending the time to do that, even though it is a big cost, building a website can be very, very expensive. But I think that really helps sell the product. And then just the other thing that we've talked about already is building the relationships with the people that are going to be your loyal fans, people that are going to make your business possible and spread the word for you.
Did you hire out a lot of that marketing, graphics, photos, website, or is that all
Not really. Most of it, I mean, we talked about the recent brand stuff that we hired that out with Andrew when we first did the new label. We hired that out with 49 Design in Burlington, and then the website, both websites I built, and most of the photos. We haven't done a lot of professional photos.
Not
until recently, but we're fortunate to have the Stanley photo shoot they did. Professional videos, we have a couple that we got them for free, from Stanley, and then some news ones. There's one from the Real Rutland. I don't know if you're familiar with that group, but it's just promoting living in Rutland.
It's like Chamber of Commerce.
They did one that was really great, and that's how we met Shane. He was the one that did the artwork on the tin can, but he was the guy that filmed that segment for Real Rutland. But yeah, the photos, almost all of them we had taken ourselves. And then just recently, one of our good friends, he's a professional photographer, so we hired him. And now that we're at that point, we can invest money in it. And I think that goes a really long way to show your farm is beautiful and not
fanning the flame now.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't work if we didn't ship products, right?
Right.
I don't know if we didn't have something to sell online, I'm not sure we would pay money to take photos.
Same with the recipes. Those are all professional photos now. Our buddy Steve in Rutland does those and develops the recipes too, which I'm not going to do.
Yeah, I guess my advice to somebody starting out would be, don't do it unless it's something you really, really want to do. And I use this as an example. I knew a sugar maker in southern Vermont. He was, I saw him, I didn't see him for about 10 years, and then I ran into him at a meeting, and I said to him, I thought you were retired by now. And he goes, I am. He said, I've been retired since I'm 21. He said, ever since then, I've been doing exactly what I want to do. If you're, it's not work if with any job, if you really enjoy it that much. So that's one of the reasons I didn't want to quit or retire.
That's some great wisdom right there. We have covered a ton, I feel. We've been chatting all afternoon and the evening now. So thanks for giving a bunch of your afternoon. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to or thought you might share on the podcast?
No, well, we always will keep listening, and thanks for getting out there and sharing people's stories. it at least keeps my mind occupied while we're tapping thousands of trees. I love hearing the stories that you tell, Andy.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was the Farmer's Share. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jenna, Jacob, and Bob at Baird Farm. The Farmer's Share is supported by a grant offered by the USDA Specialty Crop Block Program from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets. This funding helps to cover some of my time and travel in order to produce this podcast until March of 2026. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service supports projects that address the needs of U.S. specialty crop growers and strengthens local and regional food systems. I have no doubt that this podcast will meet those needs and help educate growers to support the industry. If you enjoy this show and want to help support its programming, you can make a one-time or reoccurring donation on our website by visiting thefarmersshare.com/support. We also receive funding from the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association. The VVBGA is a nonprofit organization funded in 1976 to promote the economic, environmental, and social sustainability of vegetable and berry farming in Vermont. Their membership includes over 400 farms across Vermont and beyond, as well as about 50 businesses and organizations that provide products and services of all types to their members. Benefits to members include access to the VVBGA listserv to buy, sell plants and equipment, share farming information, and tap the vast experience of our growers. Access the Community Accreditation for Produce Safety, also known as CAPS. This program is designed for growers, by growers, to help you easily meet market and regulatory food safety expectations. You can access the VVBGA's Soil Health Platform, where you can organize all the soil tests and create and store your soil amendment plans and records. Access to webinars for growers in the VVBGA annual meeting. An email subscription to the Vermont Vegetable and Berry newsletter. Camaraderie, enhanced communication, and fellowship among commercial growers. Memberships are on a per farm, per calendar year basis, and annual dues this year are $80. These funds pay for the organization's operating costs and support educational programs and research projects. These funds also support projects that address grower needs around ag engineering, high tunnel production, pest management, pollinators, produce safety, and soil health. Become a member today to be a part of and further support the veg and berry industry. You can visit thefarmersshare.com to listen to previous interviews or see photos, videos, or links discussed from the conversation. If you don't want to miss the next episode, enter your email address on our website and you'll get a note in your inbox when the next one comes out. The Farmer's Share has a YouTube channel with videos from several of the farm visits. We're also on Instagram, and that's where you can be reminded about the latest episode or see photos from the visit. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could write a review. In Apple Podcasts, just click on the show, scroll down to the bottom, and there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with other grower friends or crew who you think would be inspiring for them. Thanks for listening.